Thank you so much for joining us for IEBC's webinar on building community and sustainability and introducing the Caring Campus Network and the Caring Campus Academy. I hope you're all well, especially as we move towards the end of the semester and we're all going a little crazy, I'm sure, with Thanksgiving around the corner and then finals and all of that good stuff. We have folks with us from all around the country, and I'm joined by Dr. Trudy Bers out of Chicago, Illinois. And I'm also joined by Loredana Carson out of Southern California. They are two of our fantastic IEBC coaches. My name is Brad Phillips. And
whenever you need to.
The Institute. And if those of you have your unmuted, if you wouldn't mind muting, that would be wonderful, just so we can eliminate background noise. So before I get started, I did want to first share my screen so we can get started here. But I also wanted to share with you, I don't know how many of you saw the recent article about the Surgeon General and the idea of loneliness. So let me just share that title of that with you so you can see what that article is. The new plague on campus, loneliness. Just raise your hand if you've seen this article. So what's really fascinating is the Surgeon General for the US is now addressing this whole issue about we are made to connect, and students are not feeling connected. They're feeling really lonely. And our work with Caring Campus is a way to combat that. But what's fascinating is, and I invite you to read this article, it's in Inside Higher Ed. What they're saying is they're putting the burden on students to connect, which is exactly the opposite of we at Caring Campus are promoting. The idea is we as educators are connecting. So the book Relationship Rich Education talks about not just student-to-student connections, but also faculty-to-student connections and staff-student connections. So let me go back to the PowerPoint. And why don't we get started? So today we're introducing the Caring Campus Network and the Academy. And what we've thought about at IEBC is, look, we're now up to over 130 colleges around the United States. So congratulations to all of you for doing this work. And I also wanted to announce to you that we have our first university starting, Texas A&M University, Kingsville. So not only is this movement, by the way, started by community colleges, but also now permeating our university partners. So congratulations for all your good work. And my sincere hope is that this is making a significant difference, not only for your students feeling connected and them staying, but also for you as faculty, as staff, as administrators, in terms of changing the culture. But what we're trying to do now is better connect all of us. You know, as we continue to grow, and we're growing more and more every year, it becomes harder and harder for people to learn from one another, because all of you are doing really great work, but how do we find out about that? The other challenge is, because of the Great Resignation and COVID-19, many new staff and faculty have joined since you've started Caring Campus. How do those new individuals learn about and engage in Caring Campus behaviors? So we'd love your feedback on what we're proposing. We hope you stay the whole time. We're with one another for an hour and a half. So let me continue. So let's talk about the network. And the network is designed to connect all of you with one another, to learn from one another. What we're hearing is, oh, Brad, does anyone do this? Or how do you do that? So we have, through a funder, the ECMC Foundation, received some funds to help better connect all of you, all of your institutions with one another. So what's the vision, right? We always have to start with a vision. So our vision is that every college is engaged in this Caring Campus work. They're connected to one another, and that there are resources available to help support institutionalization and sustainability. You know, we know how hard this work is that you're already doing. And Caring Campus is designed to add the human component to all the different things you're doing. So how do we help you with institutionalization and creating sustainability so that as you move forward, as you grow your Caring Campus efforts, there's a way to learn from one another. So the expected outcome is that all of the colleges in this network will in fact learn from one another. They'll improve, they'll accelerate their engagement in the Caring Campus work because there's now a resource or a set of resources to do so. So in regard to the network, we know that colleges want to institutionalize and sustain this work. And many of you are leaders in this work at your own campus. So you also want to connect with one another. I think every coach, and we meet every Monday, comes back and says, you know, Brad, there's a college that wants to know about this. Who has that resource? Whether it's everything from logos to training videos to bling. I'm wondering why you're not all wearing your Caring Campus t-shirts. I'm just saying. Okay, so we want access to resources so that you're not reinventing the wheel, and it makes it easier to do things. You might notice, look at my background, and you can see our other coaches in IEBC's background. We've created some consistency, right? With the logo, with a way to get in touch with us through the QR code. So what will the CCN, the Caring Campus Network, do? It's really formalizing a mechanism to connect and connecting all of you, all of the colleges doing this work across the country. There'll be no charge for membership. So there will be a membership, but there'll be no charge for the membership. It's all paid for by ECMC throughout all of 2024. And any new campus that starts with us will automatically have a free year of membership for their first year after coaching sessions end. So, okay, what is this Caring Campus Network? What is exactly doing? The first thing is we are going to offer a certification. What do we mean by that? There are many colleges, especially college presidents, that have approached us and said, hey, look, we are a top 150 Aspen college, or we're a leader college in achieving the dream. Do you guys offer anything that says we are a Caring Campus college? Because we want to share that with our community and with our students. So we are developing a system by which you can self-assess and be certified as a Caring Campus college. That way you can put that logo on your emails, on your websites, but you've met certain criteria in order to do that. We also have are contracting with a database developer. We have about 250 artifacts that colleges have sent in. And like I said, it could be a training video. It could be a sample of a logo. It could be a training manual around Caring Campus. We want you to have easy access to that. And so this database should be ready in March. We'll do a training on how to access that. There's no charge for that. We also know that folks love the roundtables. And what we do is we bring college presidents together, we bring liaisons together, we bring faculty together, we bring staff together to learn from one another. We don't really have a revenue source for that. So what we're saying is by being part of this membership, there's no charge to participate in that, and we want to accelerate that effort. In addition, we did a lot of this work throughout COVID, and people have left. There have been changes, and some colleges are saying, well, we did Caring Campus, but we really feel like we need to be supercharged. And so there'll be no charge for a consultation to meet with a group to talk about how we accelerate or even restart your Caring Campus efforts at your colleges. So if things have waned a little bit, we're happy to help you out at no fee. We'll also be producing a network newsletter, and that newsletter will be quarterly, where we're going to highlight various colleges and the efforts that they're engaged in. The other thing that happens is, and it happens all the time. In fact, it's almost monthly, if not bi-monthly, or I'm sorry, bi-weekly. We do presentations around the country, whether it's virtual, whether it's face-to-face. But one of the things that we haven't done enough of is highlight your efforts. So what we'll be doing is querying you when we get these invitations to do this work to see, gee, do you want to highlight your college? Do you want to highlight the efforts of Caring Campus at your college in these national presentations? So we'd like to include your good work when we get invited to do these kinds of things. There'll also be a membership directory, so you'll have easy access to contact folks that you want to talk with. So you may have a colleague that's in the faculty or in administration or in the staff, and you want to know how are they doing something. That membership directory will be available as part of the network. We also want to do a national conference. We've been talking about this for a long time. We have over 130 colleges doing this work. We think it's time for us to come together face to face, and we are building we're building the work to start with a national conference. We're hoping for 2025. I've done and developed conferences before. It does take 2 years. So I'm hoping that this is going to happen in 2025. Does that sound like something you want to be part of? Going and learning from colleagues? Great, good. I see thumbs up. The other thing that we're going to do is we're starting a Caring Campus Academy. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but I wanted to share with you that, the idea that people are leaving is a real challenge. So how do they become acculturated? So that academy is a way for that to happen. So let me move on from this. I hope that these are good items, and I want you to think about what else you might want in a membership. So we're going to go into breakout groups because we want to learn from you and what you think of all this. Natalie, how many folks do we have? You're muted, by the way.
We have about 70 participants, less.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to break up into 5 groups, right? And that means we'll have about 14 participants per group. And here's the questions we'd like you to think about. After I just describe CCN, I'm sorry, before I do this, I apologize. I want Trudy. Trudy's leading this breakout group. Trudy, I'm so sorry. I was just on a roll here. So Trudy, do you want to walk folks through the questions and what we're hoping to gain from them about the viability and if they even like this idea of a network?
Sure, I will do that. But before I go through the questions that we're going to be asking you in our breakout rooms, I just want to make a couple of comments about the actual breakout room mechanics, if you will. There are no right or wrong answers. We really want everyone to participate. We're very hungry to hear your candid perceptions about the ideas for the network and then later the ideas for the academy. Each breakout room has a facilitator who will also be taking notes. So please understand there may be some typos in the notes that you see on screen. We'll clean those up later. So here's what we want you to think about in our first breakout group discussions. And we're focused here on the network, affectionately known as CCN. In what ways does the CCN make sense for you? Brad has described the essential components of the network as we're thinking of them now. Do these make sense? In what ways might involvement in a network make sense for your college? How will the network support institutionalization and sustainability? What benefits of the network are valuable for your college? And probably most important, because this is a draft, this is not carved in stone. These are our initial ideas about the network. What suggestions do you have for what the Caring Campus network should include and how to make the case for a Caring Campus network even more compelling? So with that, I'm going to turn this over, I think, to Natalie. Are you our breakout room facilitator, going to move us into breakout rooms?
I think Brad's going to do that for us.
I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in for about 20 minutes or so. We'll start with introductions, but if you could keep those brief, since we'll have about 12 plus people in a room, and we'll ask you for your name, the college you represent, and I'd love to hear about how's Caring Campus going? Going well, struggling, whatever, right? So let me go into breakouts, and we are... Natalie, we have how many people now?
We have 67.
67. Okay. So we have 5 breakout rooms, and give us a minute to move everyone around, okay? Because we're going to move the facilitators, and we have 5 different rooms. So I'm going to create that now. Please click yes to go into your room. Sorry, I'm just moving everyone into the right room. And why don't I have a room 4? Oh, there's room 4. Yay. Okay. Sorry, let me move everyone and then I'll go from there. Okay. Welcome back.
Wow, I really, room 3, it ended so quickly. Thank you all for your terrific input. It was amazing. I could not stop typing.
I feel the same way. We have wonderful folks on. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So look, we're going to now move, shift gears a little bit and talk about the academy, right? And so the idea behind the academy is, you know, when we come and work with you, and we have 14 coaches now, we tend to bring small groups together and they learn about Caring Campus, and then their job is to develop plans for expanding the work among staff and among faculty. But we know that things have changed so much in the last few years. I've been talking to colleges and, you know, they're telling me we're hiring 20 new faculty and 15 new staff and that kind of thing. And, you know, how do these folks get acculturated? So when we think about a vision for Caring Campus, this academy, we really want to focus on this culture of caring. Just like the Surgeon General is talking about this epidemic of loneliness, we now as educators can make a difference in students' lives. And it's funny because, you know, when you look at the research on this from Tinto, you know, they'll say that about 50% of the student experience is connection. And so it's really tough for students, especially students from backgrounds that have not had a brother or sister or a parent go to college. And so if we can create this culture and keep this sustained, that's really important. So in this vision, what we're saying is, look, we want to bring all new faculty and staff. And we mean new, we mean they started in fall, they started in spring, to really understand what this is all about, this importance, this fostering a sense of belonging, and understand not just that it's important, because look, we all care. We're not saying we're not caring. The idea here is that there are specific behaviors that colleges can engage in, that people engage in to help students feel connected. And so really institute that sense of belonging. So the outcome of this academy is that every new faculty and staff member will engage in how to do this Caring Campus work in their first year of employment. So it stays sustained throughout the entire time. So that way it's not, you know, because when you do an orientation, what happens? You go in and you learn where your room is, your office is, you've got your keys. In California, everything costs money. So you have a parking permit, you know, all those kinds of things. So why do we even want to start this thing? Well, again, we're focusing on institutionalization and sustainability. So we've got to make sure that this doesn't die. And this is really, again, adding that human component to all the good work that you're all doing and your colleges are doing. That said, it's challenging with all the changes and all the new employees, and that, you know, they're not really necessarily being acculturated in this. In fact, I was talking to one very large college system president, and, you know, one of the things that he does is he holds orientations every month at this college. And he goes in and he says, look, you know, and they've already adjusted their job descriptions. By the way, that'll be in the database. They've already adjusted, you know, the expectations for the interviews. That'll be in the database. And so when he addresses folks, he says, thank you, thank you, thank you. As you know, in your interviews, we deeply care about our students and we want you to exhibit a culture of care. But if you don't want to do this, maybe this isn't the place for you. That's how strongly he feels about creating that culture of care. And so with all these new employees, you know, it's tough. And so maybe some of you already have a formal training when new employees come for Caring Campus, but in the research that we've done, almost nobody has it. Does anyone have a Caring Campus new employee orientation? Yeah, see, I'm not seeing any hands going up. They don't. And so what we're saying is, look, we can help you by bringing these new folks in for a certain number of sessions, which I'll go over in a minute. And we're going to have to charge for it because we don't have a source for it. But quite frankly, the charge is far less than if you sent someone away to a conference. In fact, it's infinitesimal compared to what it costs to send someone away to a conference. And, you know, one of the things we find is when we talk to folks about going away to conferences and what they gain, they say, I ate at the best restaurant. You don't hear a lot about, oh, I gained all these new skills and I'm going to apply these skills when I get back. I mean, they learn about things, but, you know, at IEBC, we focus on the how, right? Not just the what, but the how. So we think this is a good way to get your new team members, your faculty and your staff, engaged in delivering caring campus behaviors. So what does this really look like? So in only one semester, and it could be fall or spring, so we're going to offer basically cohorts in fall and spring to introduce faculty and staff to the research behind caring campus, the practice, the outcomes, and it's going to be done through 6 one-hour sessions. Actually, I'm lying. The first session's an hour and a half because we want to get to know everybody, right? So we're adding an extra half an hour so that folks can be connected. And the cool part about this is we feel it's really good, just like we have today, to have people from all over the country in these sessions. So it's not necessarily from Pasco Hernando that everyone is learning, but rather folks from Pasco Hernando are in different sessions with folks from all across the country. It's really a chance to create this national cohort of folks. And so faculty and staff are really acculturated right at the beginning of their employment to what it means to create this caring culture at your college. All the sessions are Zoom. So we don't have to get people together. People are now used to Zoom. They'll learn about the behavioral commitments, and actually there's homework. I know we haven't had homework in a long time in our lives, but there's homework about engaging in these commitments throughout the 6 sessions. So that's essentially how this works. And once training is completed, participants will be certified as caring campus ambassadors. So IEBC will grant them this ambassador status that they've gone through this training. Now, we have had, when interviewing colleges about this, we have had colleges say to us, well, can folks that are already on the campus that aren't new participate? Absolutely. If the college feels like, well, there's some people that may have been here for a year, we started Caring Campus 2 years ago, it would be good for them to get training, that's fine too, right? But it's really generally focused on new folks. So they commit to these 6 one-hour sessions. It's over the course of a semester, and it's preferably during their first semester of employment, right? Because we want to get them when they're new. The cost is $299 to $499 for the entire 6 sessions, which, you know, an average conference fee is like $800. And then you have to send a person away, and there's a flight, and then there's hotel, and then there's food. So this is, we hope, a very reasonable, but you'll tell us if you think this is a reasonable cost, because we've got to pay our coaches to actually deliver this training. So we plan to have about 30 people to 33 people in each cohort, each room, so to speak. And then if you're part of, if you are sending more than 10 employees, we thought we'd just charge 50% of the price for each other employee. So if you're a large college, you know, 10 employees at $499 is, you know, almost $5,000, but then it would be half price for any other employees. So hopefully that makes sense, because we're trying to make this, we know colleges are struggling financially. So we want to make this as reasonable as possible to participate in this work. So what I'd like to do is ask Loredana to walk you through the questions for the next breakout session.
Thank you. So just like we did before, we're going to ask you a series of questions in the breakout room. And what we're really looking at here is to find out, does this make sense for your college? Would you make use of such a network or such an academy when it exists, not if, when? What do you think about the time commitment? Is 6 one-hour sessions spread out over a semester, is that a reasonable commitment? And do the fees sound reasonable to you? You know, we're not asking you to commit and say, yes, I will pay that fee, but just in general, does the fee sound reasonable? And then most of all, what we're looking for is your suggestions. We're looking for ideas, maybe something we haven't thought of. And is there anything that you can suggest that would make the case for doing this type of work even more compelling? We're convinced. We've had so many conversations with people. They all seem excited about it. But now that we have you all together, we'd really like to get your take on it and help to propel us forward for our final launch. So if that is good for everybody, Brad, would you like to open up the rooms and we'll go back in where we were?
I do. So let me go back to breakouts, and we're going to do the same breakout sessions. And some people have left, some people have come, so it may look a little different, but we're still going to have our 5 rooms, and I'm opening all the rooms now. Well, thank you all for providing your wisdom. And what I'd like to do now is spend at least 10 minutes. We're going to try to get you out of here early, if that's okay with everyone. Normally it is. And so let me display my screen. Oh, it is displayed now. Let me do it in this way so you can really see it. Okay, so why don't we start with group 1? Trudy, would you mind sharing just the network?
I think I heard a lot of positive comments about the concept of a network, the ability to share among colleges, the ability to learn from one another, the notion of seasoned colleges who are further along in their caring campus journey, serving as mentors or helping newer colleges, and the desire to not reinvent the wheel. There was also enthusiasm for conference participation and the idea of certification. And we did spend a fair amount of time talking about the criteria for certification, which I'll put in the notes. I don't want to take time now, but clearly there would need to be some guidelines, some criteria, and above all, not make I'm going to use the term application, which may be the wrong term, application for certification, not too cumbersome.
Yeah, there's always a balance, right, between certifying and certification really meaning something.
Yeah.
And so what we want to do is it would be a self-certification, but with accountability, right, is the goal, is to balance that. Did the group talk much about supporting institutionalization and sustainability when it came to the network? Did you get that far?
Indirectly, but not explicitly.
Okay, great. Thank you. Donna, can we move on to you?
Sure, I would say pretty much ditto for what Trudy shared. I'll address then the third question, Brad. People were excited. This was a comment, excited to start Caring Campus, but it was difficult to keep it going year after year. So the idea of a certification was a cool one. It's a way to keep people energized and not make it stale or old or, oh, it's done. Hoping that there's a manual with a lot of ideas, that people can implement on their campuses, different time lengths for sessions, modalities. These are things that would help. And are there events year round? Like, can there be something seasonal every month? That here for Halloween, we're going to do blah, blah, or, whatever. Valentine's Day comes along. It doesn't have to be around those holidays, but it's that concept of doing something year round ideas to rally the people around that. And then figuring out how to recognize participants would be really important. That is so important.
Yeah, we talk about celebration, of course, and we want to be able to recognize folks for their good work, not just at your college, but in the network itself. So being part of that Caring Campus. So I see a lot of heads nodding with that.
Right. And I would say one of the benefits someone mentioned in our group was that they're reworking their strategic plan, and their number one value was caring. That was chosen by the college, right? So that plays very much into this concept of having this network and support going on. Learning from one another.
Thank you, Donna. It's helpful. Jordan, I know you said you had this engaging group and lots of notes, so I'm going to keep it to 30 minutes or less. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I think just one specific is under what the network should include would be a hub of data that includes quantitative and qualitative information about the impact on students, culture, faculty, and staff. Generally, I was struck by the desire to think about groups on campus other than students and how their needs are the same as student needs. So how to identify so supporting institutionalization and sustainability can happen by helping to identify virtual in addition to traditional ways for folks to connect. Especially very true for faculty, perhaps we're part of the beginnings, but need to be part of the institutionalization effort. Making sure everyone understands the connections to student retention and success, magnify the impact. And going back to that article and the sense of loneliness, it's not just students who are feeling that. Workplaces also can be lonely, or social places. And how can Caring Campus help deal with these kinds of issues for staff and faculty and not just students? So I think that was kind of one of the general themes that also came through in our conversations.
Thank you, Jordan. Loredana.
Ditto, lots of the very, very same types of comments. People at different stages of the Caring Campus continuum have different needs. So, but a universal need is to not reinvent the wheel. And I think that that was one of the highlight benefits of the network, would be to understand more quickly what other people were doing and then pull from those what would be suitable for each institution. Because it's not a cookie cutter process. We're not telling everybody how to do this. We're providing ideas and guidelines, but sometimes people don't know all the other possibilities and we don't have the opportunity to give them that. So this gives a broader range of ideas and really connects them. I had a good suggestion about having a discussion board or listserv or bulletin board, or a place where all the ideas were easily accessible and easily available to the newcomers, so that they were a little bit speeded up and enhanced on their adoption process. And really just the idea that this was going to build community and allow for that conversation would really be welcome.
Great, thank you. So my wonderful group 5, they like the idea of this network. They like the fact that it really does increase collaboration and really trying to understand what other colleges are doing, because as you said, Loredana, folks are in different stages.
Yep.
And it's important. But the big piece too was resources to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to have those resources available because, look, it's really easy to get stuck on silly things like a logo, or should we do t-shirts or mugs or something? I mean, these are conversations that, look, here's what other colleges are doing. You pick what you want.
Right.
It also helps create some structure and accountability that we're very siloed at our colleges. And this way we can learn what others are doing. So it really helps us connect what's happening. So the database piece was really important. And also they talked about, what does it take to sustain Caring Campus? So being part of a network opens up that and affords that opportunity to connect with others that are maybe further along and that could help them figure out, okay, here's where we're stuck. What did you do? That kind of thing. The other thing that happened, and it came out because we'd heard this earlier, is really the network helps support this whole issue of putting in the strategic plan. You know, we heard the culture of caring, you know, is in strategic plans, but we're seeing that more and more. All right, let's switch gears now. Let's move on to the academy. We're 11 minutes before our end here. So if we can quickly go through thoughts about the academy. Trudy, we'll start with you again, if you don't mind, with your wonderful group 1. You're muted, Trudy.
One major theme is that college cultures are different, and anything has to be adapted to the college culture. The time commitment and fees both seemed problematic, especially for large colleges, which might have literally hundreds of new employees in a year. There was a conversation about having this be a train the trainer model, that the academy would be targeted to Caring Campus leaders on campus who would then take it back to their colleges for more extensive training of some sort. One comment I'd not heard before is the importance of working through HR or professional development and being aware that the academy could be seen as an implicit criticism of what HR or professional development were already providing to faculty and employees on campus.
Interesting. I love this train the trainer model. That's certainly a possibility. I see folks nodding. That's great. What about the fees? Were they too much or okay?
They were too high, but a lot of people I think weren't sure. You know, we're talking with people who aren't probably sitting in the budget office at the college.
Got it. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Donna.
Yeah, I would say that it was a mix, particularly at smaller institutions where people are wearing multiple hats, you know, that they're overwhelmed. And I'm putting a word in there that wasn't said by the person who shared this. But maybe 4 sessions would be more reasonable. 6 was kind of a lot in terms of a time commitment. And then the fees, of course, are challenging. At a larger institution, the fees are not such a problem, and the time commitments seem to be okay because their president in this particular instance is really behind this initiative and would find a way to make this work. I think the HR department was a comment that came up, you know, from a well-established college who's been in the network for a while, been in Caring Campus for a while, not in the network per se, because you're talking about that, but they already have it part of their orientation. And so, you know, what would this mean for them? They'd like to be able to opt out of this
Of course.
opportunity, right? So
No,
that
this
makes
is not a mandatory thing. This is for colleges that see this as an interest that would like some help for what we hope is a reasonable cost and time.
Right. And for larger institutions where they may have a lot of employees, you know, to have this all of them get it at the same time might be challenging in terms of time and fees. But, you know, could this be staggered, you know, and then you might lose momentum and you lose people. But maybe having this kind of blend, a hybrid of face-to-face every couple years, 2 to 3 years, and then have some virtual in those other years might help sustain that.
So a mixed model. Well, we're hoping the conference that comes together will provide some training as well for folks. So it's not just here's what you're doing. That's great. Jordan.
And they love the pins. They love the pins.
Jordan,
I do have to say, Brad, I'm sorry, but I really feel this was a bit important thing. What's the content? What's the purpose of the academy? You know, it would be very important to have that laid out. Is it to share research? Is it to implement the objectives? How would you handle faculty and staff together? You know.
So I didn't do a very good job of this. So let me just backtrack a little bit. It's either faculty or staff together, not faculty and staff. It is the why of Caring Campus, the research behind it. It is implementing the behavioral commitments from each session. So with the sessions, you would start with behavioral commitment 1. Let's say it's learning students' name for faculty or the 10-foot rule for staff. And you would go out and practice that. And then the next meeting, you would come back and report on it and then work on the next commitment. So it's really about learning the why, understanding the commitments, implementing the commitments, practicing them, and getting feedback on that implementation. So that's what this would be about. So hopefully that helps clarify a few things.
Thank you.
Jordan.
Well, start with an apology to my group. I was way off on the content. We know there were some folks who went through the Leadership Academy and noticed that you mentioned 6 sessions, and we thought it was going to be similar to the Leadership Academy in content, but clearly not. I had from some very large colleges to actually our smallest college in our group, and all thought that the time commitment and fees were reasonable. One of the things that was suggested in terms of including might be a shorter option for professional development, perhaps a couple of videos that could go to folks who aren't necessarily new employees, such as videos that could be housed in a college's Center for Teaching and Learning, linking it to when colleges have their all college days, providing support for breakout sessions about Caring Campus. There was conversation about the possibility of an on-campus option for an additional fee. Also, and then also for making this more compelling, there was the idea of, well, two things. Start with the loving approach, how it helps you as a person avoid the same lecture that we've all heard so many times, and to move slowly, but also think about highlighting also mental health, how connectedness increases the sense of belonging, and how this sense of belonging and embracing concerns in a caring way, addressing the negative, not just the positive, and how making these connections can link to reductions in campus conflict and campus violence by increasing a sense of belonging and connectedness. Thought that the academy, that it could be made more compelling by adding this link to the general mental health of the campus. And then also including that how we work with our students, and this gets back to a theme that was in our first session, how this personalized feeling connected also happens with staff. I mean, it was suggested to have the person going through the academy find a mentor on campus to help bring them along, validate ideas, and feel connected to Caring Campus locally at their campus, and participate in the commitments. And that this is who we are, not what we do. That it's not just more work for you to do. This is about creating a culture at our college that we firmly believe in and walk the walk.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Loredana, and we're running out of time. We have 3 minutes left, so we have to go fast.
Okay, some really key highlights were that maybe there could be some customization. I like the idea of having the trainer. That would be equivalent to what our group talked about, maybe having one session for leaders who are going to be leading the initiative as opposed to people that are going to be doing the commitment themselves. But that was a good idea. And also just the bell curve idea. There's some campuses on the very large size that have already implemented a lot, don't need maybe this. Some smaller campuses maybe don't need this, but there's a large group in the middle that do and that support it. Think the time and fees are reasonable, and that I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. And my group, wonderful group 5, they talked about, and a lot of what you already said, but they talked about the idea that the officers, those leading it, could probably be benefit by going through this as well, especially folks that are all of a sudden, I'm now the new Caring Campus co-chair. What is this all about? What am I supposed to do? That would be really helpful. Fees seem to be reasonable. At least heads were nodding. Having recordings so people could opt in, if they missed a session kind of thing. And that making them an ambassador, Caring Campus ambassador, that certification was really, really good. So that's just a quick, probably incomplete summary of what folks said. What I wanted to do next is just share my screen. And here's my contact information. If maybe you didn't want to share publicly, but want to share privately, if you use your phone, you can take a picture of that little QR code, and that my contact information will come up. So you can, please feel free to schedule some time or give me a phone call. Just know I'm on the West Coast. So if it's 8 a.m. and you get this wonderful idea and you're in New Jersey, please don't call me. I do wake up at 2 in the morning for a brand new puppy to take her out to Piddle every night. So my wife is grateful for that. But that's about the only time I get up in the morning that early. And with that, I just want to thank everyone for contributing to this. We'll have more information based on what you're helping us do, because we want to customize this to what your needs are, not what we think is best, but what you think is best. So thank you for your time. I hope this was helpful, and I'll stick around for a couple minutes afterwards if you have any immediate questions. I want to thank Trudy and Loredana for walking us through the questions for the groups, and of course, thank Jordan and Donna for facilitating these groups as well. Thank you, and most importantly, thank you all for attending. Have a great holiday weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye.